Chinese civilization is one of the longest-lasting civilizations on the planet. One of the more mysterious parts of it are its languages. Many people believe that the inhabitants of China only speak one unified language or speak slightly different dialects. There are actually many different languages spoken in China, and there are many different Chinese languages. The Chinese languages are a language group that all come from the Sinitic branch of the greater Sino-Tibetan language family that spans much of East and Southeast Asia. The Sinitic languages reach from the Central Asian plains and deserts to eastern China, and from northern Manchuria to the South China Sea. Chinese languages are official languages in the People's Republic of China, Taiwan, Hong Kong, Macau, and Singapore. There are many speakers worldwide, with over 1 billion speakers of Sinitic languages, and a majority of them are living in the People's Republic of China. The Chinese languages are a branch of the greater Sino-Tibetan language family. This proto-language most likely existed around 4000 BC and eventually split into two main groups, the Sinitic and Tibeto-Burman branches. The Tibeto-Burman branch consists of many different languages, amounting to over 200 distinct languages, according to many estimates. This branch spans much of western and southern China, northeastern India, Burma, Bangladesh, Bhutan, Nepal, Vietnam, Laos, and Thailand. The Sinitic branch of the language family evolved into many languages collectively known as Chinese, including modern languages like Mandarin and Cantonese. The Sinitic branch became Old Chinese and was spoken during the 11th and 7th centuries BC during the Zhou dynasty. The first written records of Chinese languages were written in Old Chinese around 1250 BC. These records were written in oracle bone script. It was written on bones in use for divination. Old Chinese was still evolving at this time. The subsequent classification that most linguists use to distinguish the eras of the language is Middle Chinese. Middle Chinese was spoken around the 3rd century AD and was the ancestor to most modern Chinese languages spoken today with some exceptions. Middle Chinese was not a unified language and was more like a group of related dialects. They started diverging around the 10th century AD into the modern languages of China. There are 7 main distinct language groups that are considered Chinese languages. The first is Mandarin, the largest language group spoken throughout China. It is also called Northern Chinese because the Mandarin dialects originated in the north. Southern China is much more linguistically diverse. It is home to more language groups than the north, including Yue, Jiang, Min, Gun, Wu, and Hakka. There is a split between the north and south in China. The main reason for this is because of its geography. The northern parts of China consist of plains which are predominantly where the Mandarin dialects are spoken. The accessibility of this region is why the Mandarin dialects are so similar and have diverged to a lower degree than the southern groups and the dialects within the group. The southeast part of China is where the most linguistically diverse regions are. Chinese languages are not the only languages spoken here, but others within the Sino-Tibetan language family, and even Austroasiatic languages such as Palungic and Pekanic. The geography of southern China is also to blame for its linguistic diversity. China's southeastern landscape consists of high mountains and low river valleys originating from the Yangtze. In terms of accessibility, the geography of the south is very different from the northern plains because it contributes to less interaction and migration. Geographical isolation leads to a large diversity of cultures and languages that you can't find in the north. Before I get into the modern varieties of Chinese spoken, I have to point out a fact that many people don't consider. Languages and dialects are usually clearly defined words. Dialects are a distinct regional form of communication that comes from a language, and most dialects in a language can be mutually intelligible. But many linguists argue over what makes something a language or a dialect, and to be fair, it is pretty difficult to determine the languageness of verbal communication. You can see an example of this issue in the Romance languages. Look at the regional dialects and you can see that borders are more blurred. It is a dialect continuum with the mutual intelligibility of dialects getting lower and lower the farther away you move from where people speak that dialect. A French person raised in Paris might not understand an Italian person raised in Naples, but someone from Genoa might be able to converse with someone from Marseille. But French and Italian are considered different languages. Still, they may have higher levels of mutual intelligibility than when compared with other languages or depending on where the speaker resides. I point this out because it is important to know why arguments exist over what makes a language distinct from another and what doesn't. I will analyze the different varieties of Chinese spoken as separate languages and not as dialects because they are not the same language in many ways. Though there are differences between languages in China that make it easier to place boundaries. There are 7 traditional language or dialect groups in the Sinitic branch. Mandarin is the most well-known language group and has almost 1 billion native speakers. It is spoken in the northern provinces and some western provinces, and is an official language in Singapore and Taiwan. The standard Chinese language is based on the dialect of Mandarin that is spoken in Beijing. This standard language is used by government officials and is used as a lingua franca, a common language used by speakers of different native languages throughout China. Children are taught the standard language in school from a young age, and its use is promoted in workplaces, schools, and other public places. Yue, which is another well-known language group because it contains the dialect Cantonese, is spoken in southern China in cities like Canton, Hong Kong, and Macau. Jiang is spoken in southern China, mainly in the Hunan province, but also parts of Guangxi, Huizhou, and Hubei. Min is spoken in southern China and also the island of Taiwan. Within China, it's spoken in the Fujian province, Leizhou Peninsula, and the island of Hainan, as well as a few other small areas. Gan is spoken in southern China in the Jiangxi province and surrounding areas, including Hunan, Hubei, Anhui, and Fujian. Wu is spoken in southern China in the Zhejiang and Jiangsu provinces, as well as Shanghai. Hakka is spoken in southern China as well as Taiwan. Hakka is a very scattered language, geographically speaking, with speakers in Guangdong, Guangxi, Hainan, Fujian, Sichuan, Hunan, Jiangxi, and Guizhou. A book called The Language Atlas of China stated that there can be another 3 language groups distinguished from the traditional groups. They include Jin, which was previously grouped with Mandarin but has been said to have retained certain aspects of Middle Chinese, making it a separate language. Huizhou, which was previously grouped with Ganwu or Mandarin, and Pinghua, which has been spoken in Guangxi for a long time and was previously called a mixture between Yue and Jiang. There are linguists that accept these groups, but there are also others who don't, making it a controversial topic. Speakers of the dialects within a specific group usually can't understand speakers of the other groups, and sometimes can't understand the speakers within their own group. There are many different distinctions used to separate these languages and the dialects within them. Sometimes they just pronounce words differently, sometimes the number or types of tones vary, and sometimes the word order is different. With all the differences between the languages, there are still many similarities. Chinese is the most widely spoken tonal language in the world. Tonal languages use tones to indicate the meanings of words. There is also the writing system. The Chinese writing system is a logogram, which is a system that uses symbols to represent entire words. Although the spoken languages are all pretty much incomprehensible to anyone that doesn't speak the language, the writing system is the same within all languages, and for the most part isn't very different. This means that someone who speaks a Mandarin dialect can communicate with someone who speaks a variety of Yue through writing. As stated before, Chinese civilization is one of the longest-lasting civilizations on the planet, and with that comes a long and complex linguistic history that is difficult to find anywhere else.